Hi, in this video I'll take you through setting up a simple network scenario in Packet Tracer. The finished network will look like the one in the diagram. As you can see in the diagram, in this scenario, you'll be using 2 routers, 2 switches and 6 PCs. The routers are Cisco 2811s and the switches are 3650s. During the lab, you'll learn some of the basics of networking and some Cisco specific basics, as well as how to use Packet Tracer. So let's get on with it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do our layout. We'll come down to this section down here and select our router. Select the router and you'll see across the side here there's a whole lot of routers. What we're going to do is we'll just scroll across until we find 2811. So we select the 2811 and we will just put it there. Okay, so we've got our 2811s. The next thing we'll do is come back down to where we were, but this time we'll select here, which is our switches, right, and we're going to select the 2960, I should say. So we'll select the 2960 and we want 2 of them. So there's our 2 2960s. So now we'll move across to this one here. So we're looking at this icon first. So we've got to click on that first. And once we've clicked on that, we'll have devices here. So we'll click on PC. And we want 1, 2, we can just drag it if you wish. 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's that's going to be our setup. We're going to now do some work on our 2811 routers. Now, since these routers need to have a join between our router here and our router here, we're going to need what we call a serial card, right, or a serial interface. In order to do that, we'll need to insert one into our router. So we'll select our router, and you'll see over here that we have the back of our router. Right, I'll just see if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, it's as far as I can zoom in. So as you can see, these slots here are slots that we would put our interfaces in, right? So extra interfaces. But we'll also see down here that we have a green light. This is our power button. And in order to interface slots. So what we need to be able to do, we need to be able to turn our power button off. If you watch, so what we need to do is we just go across here and we click on the button. That's all we need to do. Okay, we just click on that button. Once we've clicked on that button, that power button is on, or is off I should say. We're just going to turn it off. Now what we're going to put in is a WAN interface card, right? And we only want the one serial interface. The serial interface we're going to go to is down here, and it's called WIC 1T. So we're actually going to drag that, and we're going to drag it to this slot. Let's do that. So we just grab it and drag it up and let it go. So now that that's in, we can turn our power back on. Now what we'll do is we'll do the exact same thing with our other router. I'll just zoom in so we can see. So we turn the router off. Right, we can tell it's off because that green light is gone. We go down to WIC 1T and drag it up, let it go, and turn our power back on again. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to join those serial interfaces up. Now to join those serial interfaces up, what we need to do is we're going to go back down to this section down here. We're going to click on the lightning arrow, the lightning bolt, and what we need is we want to have a serial, what we call a serial DCE. Now I'm not going to go into this, not really going to go into it at all, but we do need to have this serial DCE. So we're going up to our router, and we're going to go serial 000. We drag it across to our other router and join that to serial 000. Now that we've got our serial cable set up, we are going to start connecting everything else. We go back down, we're going to click this one here, this straight one here, which is our straight through. And we're going to go and we're going to keep doing this. Now make sure you put them into fast Ethernet. And the same over here. So now we have our network fully cabled. Okay, what I've done is I've just put in some labels so we know which PCs and which devices have which IP addresses. Right, so now it's time, we're going to do some configuration. We're going to do that through the command line interface. Now to do that, what we're going to do, we're going to start off with our router on the left hand side there, and we're going to use a console cable. So we'll come down to our area down here, make sure we're still on our connections selection, and select this blue cable here, which is called the console cable, and we'll bring it over to PC0, and we'll connect it to the RS232 interface, and we'll drag it up to our router, and we will connect it to our console. Okay, so what we're going to do is, now that we've got our console cable, we're going to click on our PC0, and you'll see our physical machine, but we want to go to our desktop, so we'll click on desktop, and we want to select our terminal, not the command prompt, Right, we want to select our terminal. So once we've selected our terminal, now these options that we see here, these options here, we're going to keep them as default. That's what our terminal uses. And just come down and click OK. Your dialog might be smaller than mine. I've raised it up so that we can just see it a little bit. So if we keep coming down, I'll come down to the end. And we have this question. All right. We have this question. Would you like to enter initial configuration dialog? Yes or no? We're going to select no. No. Press return to get started. Press return, and now we can see that we're in our CLI for our router. At the moment, we are as a non-privileged user, so we've actually got to get ourselves or move ourselves into being able to make some configuration changes. So to do that, we're just going to type in the word enable, right, and hit enter. Okay, you'll notice that the prompt changes so that we have a hash, which is exactly very similar, or forget the very similar, it gives us the same idea as the root user in Linux. Okay, so now from here we're going to type in configure terminal. We're going to configure within the terminal, and we can hit enter. Right. The reason it's done this invalid input is I can't spell configure. Okay, so I'm just going to go con. I'm going to hit the tab key and let the tab key do completion for me. So as you can see here, our prompt has changed again, and that's showing us that we are in the configuration context. Now we need to just tell the system what we're going to configure, and we're going to configure an interface. And the interface that we're going to configure is interface serial 000. Hit enter. So now that we're in our interface, our serial interface configuration mode, we're going to just put in the IP address that we wish to put in. So we're going to type in IP address, and 192.168.20.1 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. Then we're going to hit enter. Now remember when we did our serial interface, we've got what we call the DCE. When we cabled it up, we gave it a DCE, and that means we've got to give it a clock rate. Now we're going to use the clock rate command. So clock space rate. We're going to give it a rate of 28.128.000 and hit enter. With our clock rate set, we're going to tell the device not to shut down to keep the interface open. So for that we use the command no shutdown. Now I believe there's going to be some of you out there who will say, oh, but we can do shortened versions of each of these commands, and you are correct, we can. But for this demonstration, I will use the full, pretty much the full command. So the next part we're going to do, and you can see that it's changed state to down, right, which is fine. So now we're going to do our other interface on this device, which is FA00. So we'll type in interface FA00 and hit enter, and we'll do IP address 192.168.10.1 255.255.255.0. So we've given it the IP address that that I've put up on the diagram, and the subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. After we hit enter, we can put in no shut. I'll do the whole lot, so no shutdown, and enter that. You can see there, you can see that we have changed our line interface state, has changed to up, which is a good thing to see. What we're going to do next is exit from our interface. We call this a context. So we're going to exit from our interface context just back to config. And now what we want to do is we want to make sure that our PCs, when we give them an IP address, they will be able to route out of their default gateway, and their default gateway is going to be 192.168.10.1, which will send their packets out of FA00 and through the serial port across to our other router. So we've got to tell the router what it needs to do. So we're going to go IP route, and we'll put in 0.0.0.0, which means from any device, 0.0.0.0, and to any network, and we want it to go to, send it to 192.168.20.2. Now we haven't configured 20.2 yet. Right, that's our other router, and we'll do that very shortly. And we just hit enter and exit. At the moment, what we've done is in what we call our running config. What we want to do is we want to copy that running config to our startup config, so that whenever we start up if we have to reboot the machine, the router, it will boot from a configuration which we want to use, which is our startup configuration. So to do that, we're just going to do a copy running -config space startup -config and press enter. It will ask for a destination file name. Now the file name, what you see in the bracket there, in the square brackets, that's this here. This is the default. We're not going to change the default. We're going to keep the default exactly as it is, and we're going to just press enter, and that's all. That now our running config has been written to our startup config. We're now finished with our router well, mine says router 3, and we're now finished with that router, so I'll get out of here for this one, and I'm going to delete the console cable from here because I don't need that anymore. So I'm going to cancel. I don't want to delete router 3. I want to delete this. So we delete our console cable, and then we're going back over to our, in my case it's router 4. So I'm going to make sure I'm still on cabling. I'm going to click the blue cable, and I'm going to go from PC3 RS232, bring it up to our router and put it on our console. Once it's on our console, I'll click on the PC, I'll move across to desktop, again terminal. Again, we'll keep this the same, we won't touch anything there, just go to OK and let it boot up. No, we don't want to enter the initial configuration dialog. Hit enter to get started, back to enable. Configure terminal. Interface serial. Oop, it's face, you got it right, not intergace. 0/0/0. Hit enter. IP address is 192.168.20.2, 255.255.255.0, and enter. No shutdown. Just, you know, you can see that it's changed state to up. That's the other one. When we did the other one, it changed state to down, and this changes state to up, and the reason that is now got a connection between 192.168.20.1 and 192.168.20.2. Just hit enter, and then we'll exit. Back up to config. Right. We don't really have to hit exit at that point, but sometimes it can make things a little bit easier. So we're going to do interface FA 0/0, and we're putting in an IP address of 192.168.30.1, 255.255.255.0. Hit enter. No shutdown. Hit enter. We'll just hit enter here. Exit. And again, we're going to do that IP route 0.0.0.0 space 0.0.0.0 space 192.168.20.1. So we're going back the other way this time. And hit enter. So now we're going to exit from there, and we'll do that copy. Now I'm going to be lazy, just type in copy run start, file name startup. So we're going to keep that, so just hit enter, and there we go. That is our two routers have been set up, ready to go. Okay, so now we can get out of there. Just remove ourselves from there. Just copy that down, and then we're going to delete, cancel. We want to delete our console cable. We don't need that anymore. So we're just going to use the we're just going to set up our IP addresses for each of our PCs. So we just click on the PC and we click on IP configuration, and we can start putting in our IP configuration for each PC. So this one here is going to be 192.168.10.2 with a 255.255.255.0. Default gateway is going to be 192.168.10.1, and that's all we need. So we'll finish that. We'll go to our next one, desktop, and we'll type in 192.168.10.3, 255.255, 192.168.10.1. Okay, so let's see if we can, now we've got everything set up, let's see how we went, see if we got everything set up correctly. So I'm just going to go on to our PC 0 here, and I'm going to go to terminal. Oh, no, I'm not. Oh, I'm so used to going to terminal. I'm going to go to command prompt. Right. And first off, we're going to see if we can ping 192.168.10.3. Right, we're 192.168.10. Well, let's just check to make sure. IP config. We can see that we're on 10.2. So let's see if we can ping 192.168.10.3. And we've got a reply, which is what we want to have. So now, we don't have a clear command. Okay, so now what we want to do is to see if we can ping, let's say 192.168.30.4. So that's on another network. So in actual fact, our setup is three separate networks. We have the 192.168.10 network, we have the 192.168.20 network, which is that connection between the two routers, and we have that 192.168.30 network. So let's see if we can ping across to 192.168.30.4. So if everything has been done correctly, we should get a request. So if you get a request timed out the first time round, that's okay. It can take a little bit of a nudge before it gets there. So if we just try that again now, right, as you can see, it's going across fine. And we'll go to 2. Again, it might take a few seconds, only because it doesn't know that has to do that ARP, right? Address resolution protocol. Right? It has to do that ARP so that it can go, okay, who has this? Right. So that looks like our network is doing exactly what we expect it to do. Okay, so let's just see what happens if we try to route some packets through. So we'll just use a simple PDU, protocol data unit. So we'll just click on the envelope and we'll put it onto PC0, click there, and then come across, and let's go to, I'm going to go to PC4. And if you look down here, oh, it's in progress, it failed. So the first one I did from PC0 to PC3 was successful, right? But that one failed, so let's try again. And this time it was successful. Okay, so let's go from PC1 to PC5. And as we can see down here, down in this section here, is where I'm looking, is that we can, there's that failed one, but then it became successful the next time round. That is some of the basics of routing. So with our routing, what did we do? We set up a link between two routers using the serial interface cards, which we had to install. We configured our IP addresses on each end, and we configured our clock rate on one end of our serial connection. We then configured the fast Ethernet interfaces for our router, our 2 routers, and our 6 PCs, and we tested it using ping, but in this case we can also test it by basically sending a packet through the system. Okay, and that is it. Hopefully everything went well for you, as it did for me, and I hope that you've learned a little bit about how to use Packet Tracer, and also some small components of configuring a basic network. Okay, so we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.